and look at a very important verse of the Quran that refers to the idea that sometimes we forget ourselves. And it's not blatant. We forget ourselves because it's the effect of forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran in its beautiful infinite wisdom has guided us towards a path of salvation. Has told us that your ultimate salvation is the hereafter, is Jannat, is heaven. It tells us where we should end up. And then it goes one step further and actually describes the qualities of those individuals who are successful. For example, in Surah Ma'idah, it talks about the successful ones having three qualities. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, ittaqullaha wabtaghul ilayhi wasilata wajahidu fi sabilihi la'allakum tuflihun. A very famous verse. Piety, wasila, and jihad, to struggle, are the three ingredients of success. The Quran lays it out for us as well. You do these three, success is bound to happen. Then the one step further and actually introduces us to groups of people or even individuals who have attained success in this world and have told us, look, mirror, emulate, imitate your life after these individuals, and you will taste the same success that they tasted. For example, in Surah Tahrim, for our sisters who, mashallah, today are listening, alhamdulillah. It's my last speech. I can leave and I can, it's okay. I'm not back here tomorrow. It's all right. They talk about the wives of Nabi Nuh and Nabi Lut, and one ayat, the very next verse, it tells us if this is the misal of those who are the Ahl Kufr, then we have another mithal, another example of the wife of Fir'aun as well. Allahumma salli. And so here again, the infinite hidayat of Allah and the Quran tells us where we should go, gives us the qualities, and then shows us individuals who to mirror. On the flip side though, the Quran also tells us who not to be, how not to be, where not to go. And this verse that I'm about to recite is one of those verses that tells us that we shouldn't be like that. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهُ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Don't be like those, the Quran says, where they have forgotten Allah, and because they have forgotten Allah, they have forgotten themselves. They are amongst the fasiqun. A fasiq is somebody who was on the path, and then somebody who diverted off the path. Right? It's possible. Sometimes we believe that, look, I am the chosen one. Right? I believe in the walayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. I believe, Salli ala Muhammad. And I believe that because I have this essence of wilayat, I can't do anything wrong. My success in the hereafter is written for me. And sometimes those who are non-Shias, they blame us for having this aura about ourselves, almost as if we own the akhirat. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to work or strive hard. We have that belief in Ghadir. It's enough for us. And we underestimate the fact that sometimes our hearts itself can deviate off the path. That's why in the qunut I often recite in my salat the very famous ayat that tells us even after being guided, we're still asking Allah to please protect my heart. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا when بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. Oh Allah, protect my heart from this filth that enters my heart, not before you've guided me. بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. You've already guided me, I'm on the path. But still, I beg you, Allah, please protect me from this rijz that might enter my heart. We should never allow our guard to go down. This very famous ayat of Ihdina as-sirata mustaqim that some transitions have as guide me to the path. And we believe it's guide me and keep me guided on the right path. Both of them are du'as. One dua is to point me to the right path. One dua is to keep me on the right path. Both of them are du'as for hidayat. Let's not be like those who have a little bit of a ghurur about us. I can live my life, sin how I want to sin, make mistakes over and over again, but because I have Ghadir and Karbala and Ashura inside of me, I have a direct ticket to Jannah. Wait a second now. Hold on 1 second. Let's be careful. There's no one-way flight to Jannah. There's many, many stops to Jannah. In fact, we as the ones who were given that tawfiq to understand Karbala and Ghadir will be asked more harshly than those who weren't. So what's important initially is for us to not be amongst those who are the fasiqun, who are on the path, and then for whatever reason we're pulled off the path. Who are they? The ones who have forgotten about themselves because they forgot about Allah. Now fine, we get the fact. We understand the idea of forgetting Allah. Sometimes we sin. Sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we forget to worship Allah. Allah becomes a second thought. Allah becomes on the back row of our minds. We become so absorbed with the life here in the West that Allah sometimes becomes part of the equation, on the to-do list. He doesn't become the actual focus itself. Forgetting Allah might make sense to us because we live it, unfortunately. We experience it, unfortunately. But this connection between forgetting Allah and forgetting yourself, what does that mean? And what does it mean to forget yourself? And then we'll move towards two very practical steps in ensuring that we don't lose sight, we don't allow our soul to become dormant, complacent, asleep. Okay, let's examine that in detail. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You see, the example I'll give you is very simple. We were programmed, we were created with a fitrat. And that fitrat is the innate nature, the internal disposition of the human being. And part of that fitrat is reliance on a super being. The Quran says, Ya ayyuhan nas antum fuqara ila Allah. Wallahu huwal ghaniyyul hamid. Oh man, forget Muslims, Iman, Ahl Kitab, Kuffar, being. So we know that because the Quran is referring to every single human being, it's a fitri natural disposition point. Ya ayyuhan nas, every single human being. Doesn't matter what you believe in, what color you are, where you're from, doesn't matter. Antum fuqara'u ilallah. You are somebody who is constantly in need of Allah. You're faqir. You can have many zeros in your bank account, you're still faqir. You can have a very successful business, you're still faqir. You can be somebody who has nothing to your name, you're still faqir. That's how you were created. Because every faqir goes to rely on the amir and goes in searching of the one who can release him of this faqr that he has. And that's why the Quran, right after announcing us being faqir, says, and Allah, wallahu wal ghaniyyul hamid. He's needless. He's not faqir. Right away, that relationship is leveled now. We're the abd, he is the mawla. We're the slave, he is the master. Sometimes we have it reversed. I have it reversed. Sometimes I act like I'm the master and God forbid he's my slave. That God, you stay there. When I need you, I'll call you. And I expect you to come answer my du'as and then go back to where you came from. And then when I need you again, I'll call you again. That's what a master does, right? Calls his slave, come, do this, now go. Are we not like that with Allah sometimes? Sure we are. But the Quran says, wait a second, you are faqir, he is ghani. Don't have that switched. That's how we were programmed, to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now the example, I'm not from here, as many of you know, I'm from Toronto. I've been here enough to know a couple of the roads here and there, but I really don't know where I'm going. Let's say, for example, Somebody has a house majlis, and they invite me to do shirkat. Can you come and, we'll be honored to have you as our guest. And he says to me that this brother Falan, let's say, is going to that majlis. You just follow him in your car and you'll be okay. I said, okay, no problem. I have no directions. I don't have a US SIM. My phone doesn't work here because roaming charges are ridiculous, right? I don't do that. I'm relying heavily on this person guiding me in front of me. Now, if he's like my brother-in-law, he drives like he's in New York. It says 65 on the road. He sees 85 for some reason. I'm not sure. The 6 becomes an 8 in his world. And he's driving, mashallah, like he's in a Indy car race, and I'm trying to somehow keep up with him. And of course, we separate. We're lost. I have no phone, no directions. I don't even have a number. I have this individual who I am following to guide me, and he's, mashallah, taken off on me. Now I am completely at the whim of what I think is right. Please follow me for a second. I am completely enslaved by my khayal, what I think. Now I remember the host of the Majlis had mentioned that I live in this area, that area, so I enter an area where I think it's a right turn here, a left turn here, and then he tells me, look, if you get lost, just look for a bunch of cars. Where you see a bunch of cars, that's where the Majlis is. If you smell a halim or see halim being cooked, go there, that's where the Majlis is, okay? So we go into streets, we look, is there halim? No halim there, no halim there, okay? No problem. I'm lost, I'm completely lost. I'm completely at the whim of my own thoughts, what I think is right. A left seems right here, a right seems right here. And the margin of error to get lost now has increased. Agreed? Because my guide is gone. Individual who has forgotten himself is somebody who has cut the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now they're at the whim of what they believe is right. How many of us have had discussions with individuals who fight the Sharia? Say, no, I don't think this is right. Nowadays, as you know, Maha Ramadan comes in the summertime, mashallah. The true test of the mu'min. In Toronto, we have 16-hour fasts. Our iftar, our suhoor is about 2:33 a.m. You have one meal and that's about it. I had one man come to me and say, Maulana, this 16-hour fast, I don't think the Prophet wanted us to fast like this. I said, really? He's like, yeah, this is too much, 16 hours. I mean, which human being can take a 16-hour fast? I go, look, my brother, the beauty of the moon calendar is what? That there was a time where you would fast in the winter time as well. Where your iftar was at 4:30 p.m., your suhoor was at 7 a.m. You forget all that. He says, no, that's how the fast should be. This is ridiculous. So we should have some sort of an average time for a fast now. Mold the Sharia somehow, challenge the Sharia, saying, no, I cannot believe that Allah would be that cruel, na'udhu billah, to make us fast in this dead heat of Toronto summer and then judge us on that wajibat. That's a person who thinks, this is my Sharia. The ulama tell us that sometimes there are two types of Islams. One Islam is in my head, what I think Islam is, and one is actually in the books. And the distance sometimes from what's written in the book and what is in my head is growing day in and day out. We hear about these riwayat from the member that the imam will come with the zuhur and a brand new deen will come. And that shocks our youth. They think, wait a second now. Does that mean that what I believe in is not accurate? No, it means that we have watered down the deen so much that the true Islam Muhammadi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that true Islam in Nab will seem like a completely new deen for us. A person who's lost himself is a person now who's governing himself. Oftentimes we ask our youth, we challenge ourselves, who's governing your life right now? What's the motivation? Who's teaching you right and wrong? The grace and the lutf of Allah, listen very carefully. The grace and the lutf of Allah is this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with the potential to be perfect. I've mentioned this several times to my youth. Kamal should be our goal. Now, what perfection is, that's a different discussion altogether. Perfection is not to be ma'soom, of course. But part of the grace of Allah is, look, I created you. I want you to be perfect. I'll go one step further. I will tell you what's haram for you, what's wajib for you. For your own benefit, doesn't affect me. Doesn't make me more of an Allah if you decide to follow the Sharia. Does not make me less of an Allah if you decide not to follow the Sharia. He's Abad, He's Azal, He was there when He'll be there when we are long gone past this universe. The very first opening discussion, Khutbah Hammam and Nahj Balagha of our Mawla Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. He says when Hammam is begging Mawla, please tell me who the muttaqi are. He says, Hammam, first know Allah's Sharia, what Allah made wajib and haram, is not for anybody's benefits. Can you imagine if God says, look, you figure out amongst yourself what is wajib, what is haram? Can you imagine if we had to dictate to ourselves what's wajib, what's haram? What kind of life would that be? I fear the thought of what our food, our salat, our fasting, of course. But God says, no, I'll help you out. I created you, I know you better than you know yourself. I'll tell you what you should refrain from and what you should make an obligation on yourself. When that guidance is there, we have a chance to reach salvation. When that guidance is not there, لا تكونوا كالذين نسوا الله. Don't be like those who forgot Allah. The immediate is what? فَانْسَاهَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ. They'll forget about themselves. Meaning what? They will be simply at the mercy of their own khayal, their own desires. And that becomes a problem. That's when we've lost ourselves. That's when this whole revival of the soul comes into play. So let's be careful. Let's ensure that God and His Sharia and the Sira of the Ahlul Bayt are governing our lives, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, how do we do that? Practically speaking, what do we do? Number one, the first process the ulama of akhlaq talk about is called takhliya. Takhliya talks about the idea of self-diagnosis. I'll give you a very simple example. You wake up in the morning and your neck feels a little bit funny. Your arm has a little bit tingling in it. Your lower back maybe is a little bit achy. You don't call 911 and say, look, something's wrong with me. You tell yourself that maybe I slept wrong. Maybe I slept on my arm. Maybe my pillow was too high. Maybe my wife hogged my pillow. It happens sometimes. And you're stuck with the wrong pillow. Because pillows are very, very important. You know that, right? You have to have your own pillow. She has to have her pillow. There can't be mixing and matching. Then that's going to be a problem. You're able to self-diagnose yourself to the point where you know there's not a major problem. Correct? By noon, by 1, everything should kind of fade away. But if God forbid, you wake up and there's tightness in your chest, you have trouble breathing, that infamous left arm just isn't working properly, you think, oh my God, these are not good signs. What do? You call 911, or you go to the ER yourself, or you're able to self-diagnose yourself to get to the next step. Because you know enough about your body to know something isn't right. So we become, for that brief moment, sorry to all the doctors in the audience, you become a physician. No, something isn't right. I don't feel right. And you go and you get that fixed. Without that self-diagnosis, God forbid, it becomes worse. We have enough knowledge of our body to be able to self-diagnose ourselves, essentially. When you go to the doctor, right away he'll ask you, what are your symptoms? I have this, I have that, I have this. Okay, no problem. Do we know enough about our souls and how we should be to self-diagnose ourselves? Do we know how we should be? And do we know how to get fixed and cured if we identify a problem? We have physical doctors writing us nuskhas and prescriptions to go and fill them out at the pharmacy. Do we know that there are prescriptions as well out there? Are we out there trying to gather up these spiritual prescriptions or not? Right? Sometimes it sounds odd, but sometimes in order for us to understand where we're going, we have to know where we are. The example I've given at Zainabiyya, at other centers as well, is the mall directory, right? If you go to the shopping mall, if you've done something wrong and you get punished by going to the mall on a Saturday with your wife, it's okay to laugh. They can't hear you, don't worry. The camera's on me, it's not on you, don't worry. Usually as husband, we go to the mall and we have to buy something from the mall, God forbid. Then we go and we park at the exit that's closest to the store. We go into the store, we buy, we come back out. Sometimes if it's a new mall, we don't know where we're going. So we look for the mall directory, that map of the mall. And on that map of the mall, there's a big, big red dot that says what? You are here, Asad. You are here. You look for that dot. Okay, I'm here. This is where I have to go. Up one level to the right. If you didn't know where you were, you wouldn't know. You might end up patrolling the entire mall. It was a 5-minute job, ends up being an hour job. Know where you need to go, you need to know where you are right now. Right? On our map inside of our soul, do we know where that red dot is? Do we know where we are? People around us are telling us constantly. Our community, our kids, our spouse is telling us, look, you're this way, you're that way. This is great about you. This is not so good about you. I remember I took a marriage course in Qom, and this very famous tradition about a mu'min being a mirror of another mu'min is true. But my ustad told me that sometimes the spouse is also a mirror for that spouse. And the job of a mirror is not only to reflect what's beautiful on you. If you look inside of a mirror, if you combed your hair right, it'll show you your beautiful hair. If you trimmed your beard nice, it'll show you. If you have ketchup on your cheek, it'll show you the ketchup stain. If you have some mark on your face, it'll show you that as well. It'll show you everything, the good and the bad. And you look at the mirror to be able to fix the blemishes, wipe out all of the spots that shouldn't be there. That's how a spouse should be for another spouse. Right? Now, yes, in the beginning, if your wife ever asks you, how do you look? The answer is, you look beautiful. That's the answer. Don't be funny, don't try to play games, don't be smart. You look great. 5 years, 6 years in, slowly but surely try to say, look, this green color doesn't look good on you. That's when the himmat grows, right? That's when you have a little, you know she's not going anywhere. It's been 5 years, she's here, right? She's not going anywhere. Now you can slowly say, look, you've been wearing this thing for 5 years, I've been dying to tell you don't look good in it. Take it off and put something else on. But not in the beginning of the marriage, please. My youth who are newlyweds, don't do that. Okay? Whatever she asks you, you look great. Whatever she asks you, you're the skinniest person in the world. That's it. Nothing else. Please, don't try to be, I'm going to be different. No, you're not. Join the club. We're all in the same boat as you are. After a while, however, when the physical discussions try to fade away, you should begin to talk about each other spiritually. The mismatch sometimes that we see, and I'm sure Malana has seen it in homes, where sometimes a spouse is elevating rapidly up the ladder for Allah, and the other spouse is down here somewhere. And that elevation up the ladder is not happening together. Every single year you go to Hajj, your wife doesn't. Every Arbain, you do that walk from Majlis Karbala, your wife doesn't. Right? You've been to 7, 8 Hajjs, mashallah, your wife and kids, not one. And obviously those have an impact on you. You have a spiritual glow. Now what ends up happening spiritual mismatch. When in reality, part of the equation of going up the ladder, like I mentioned, I had a session today with some of the young couples. I mentioned that when our holy prophet, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, can you imagine now the day after the marriage of Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamu alayha, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He's asking Imam Ali that how did you find my daughter? Those of you who have son-in-laws in the audience, have you ever dared to ask your son-in-law, so, is my daughter okay with you? And if so, I would love to know what answer he gave you. Look at the answer of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He says, Ya Rasulullah, in your daughter I found the best travel companion on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If anybody could walk with Ali on the path towards Allah, it's Fatima. But of all the things that he could have said about her, of everything he could have said about her, he chose this journey of theirs towards Allah. And made sure for us, he said, look, she's your hamsafar. It's a journey together. Fine, your wajibat is hajj, you've done that. Now the next time, inshallah, take her with you. Now when you spiritually connect with each other, and that requires you to tell her, look, this spirituality of yours is low, fix this. And equally her to tell you, there are gaping holes in your spirituality, let's fix this together. That's what a mirror does. It tells you the beauty, it tells you the spots you need to also work on as well. Part of that spirituality is just that. Part of the process of reviving the soul is just that. To ensure that those around you are telling you time and time again, these are things we need to work on, so we know at least takhliya, self-diagnosis of the soul, is possible. If we just listen, the ayat I read for you from yesterday, describing those who are the Ahl Jahannam, they have ears, they don't listen to anybody. They're told, brother, look, I love you, you're like this, so please work on your anger, you're impatient, you snap. I've seen you. You're a farishta outside your house, you're a dhalim inside your house. I'm here to help you. If these things are coming towards you, if these people are describing yourself to you, take it as a gift from Allah that the process of self-diagnosis of the soul begin inside of you. But sometimes we don't want to hear it. Sometimes we don't even face ourselves. Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, he says 1 hour of contemplation, 1 hour of contemplation is better than a lifetime of worship. One hour of contemplation, quiet time. You drive every morning to work, that commute for you is you, and you're by yourself. Right? Close the radio, shut the iPod off, sit there and just you and your thoughts. And this is where the problem is, at least for me. We're sometimes scared what might come out of our thoughts. There's a hidden reality we know about ourselves that we bury sometimes inside of us, do we not? Right? We present ourselves to ourselves as somebody great. When in reality we know that we're not as great as we think we are. And I know that contemplation, alone time, my thoughts will reveal my reality to me, forget anybody else. And we are fearful of that. 5 minutes into that alone time, we're reaching for some radio, some cassette player. We seek out our family, just drown out these thoughts in my head. Part of the fear we have of death is not anything else but the fact that death is a mulaqat with ourself. إِنَّ الْمَوْتَ الَّذِي تَفِرُّونَ مِنْهُ فَإِنَّهُ مُلَاقِيكُمْ, the Quran says. This death that you are running from, fleeing from, it'll catch you. It'll be a mulaqat, a meeting At that moment now, the mask is off. It's you, it's your kitab-e-amal. And that scares us. The meeting with ourselves scares us. But that is part of the takhliya process, self-diagnosis. We have to know what's happening inside of us. We have our bodies down packed. We know our cholesterol levels, our BP levels. We know our BMIs. We know how many calories. We have that all calculated. But our internal kingdom is in the dark right now. How should I be and how am I now? First process is self-diagnosis. The next process is tazkiyah, the actual purification of it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And we've heard enough, alhamdulillah, and many ulama have come in this center, mashallah, to talk about tazkiyah nafs. But initially that tazkiyah process will fail because the self-diagnosis was not done properly. You have a heart problem, you go to a neurologist. You won't fix the problem. You have a liver problem, you go, let's say, I don't know, to the cardiologist. It's going to be a problem. Go to the right avenue to properly purify yourself. So my brothers and my sisters, in the process of reviving ourselves, let's ensure that we don't forget ourselves. We don't be like those who now have lost our guide and we are at the whim of our own khayal, what we think should be the case. Twist and turn and absorb and mold and reform and change the sharia to somehow fit. Remember one thing very clearly, we move towards Masaib then. The reason why we boast that the deen of Islam is the best deen out there and the closest to Allah is because while the other religions have brought the religion down to fit the needs of the people, while the other religions have molded the words of Allah because the Sharia was too tough for the people, so they brought down the divine religion of Allah down to the lowest level of the man, and saying, now will you follow the deen? Yes, we will. Islam says, no, we're staying where we are. You, the insan, now build yourself up to reach that level of the deen. It's a constant journey towards that deen. If we don't do it, the Imam will come, we won't be ready. Yes, our signs are all there, but the one sign inside of us will be neglected. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sallallahu alayki ya binti Rasulullah. The days of Fatimiya are upon us, and we talked in brief yesterday about the love that the Prophet of Allah had for his beloved daughter. And in this era where we see a lot of domestic problems, parents who are struggling to raise their children sometimes, it's important that, yes, while we remember Fatima as a great daughter, it was the tarbiyat that she gave her own daughters. Mentioning tonight, it's the closeness that she had with all of her children. And you know, when you're young, of course, that love and that closeness is natural. As you get older, it tends to either fade away or kind of coast. But we see that when it came to Fatima Zahra and her children, that attachment, that love was right there to the very end. We can't mention the dhikr or the musibat of Fatima Zahra without talking about her daughter Zainab. And we can't talk about Fatima Zahra without talking about Hussein. To give you some idea of the love that she was able to give her children, such that it was reciprocated back onto her. When Imam Hussein made his niyat to leave Medina and go towards Kufa, he did his khudafisi, his goodbyes. And first he went to his grandfather's grave, Rasulullah. In Nafas al-Mahmum, Shaykh Abbas Qummi narrates that his walk towards his Nana's grave, the walk towards Nana's grave, was that of a soldier, a man who was ready, a man who understood the mission ahead of him. He sends his salams to his Nana and says, Nana, I'm going to save your deen now. I'm going for the islah and the reform of your ummah. But when he went to his mother's grave to say Khudafiz, Hussein's approach was different. If he walked towards Nana's grave as a man who was a soldier, he stumbled towards Fatima's grave like a small baby towards his mother. Sometimes when a child doesn't see their mother for many, many days and they first lay their eyes on their mother, sometimes they walk so fast, they stumble over their own feet. They can't get there fast enough. And once again, feel the warmth of the hug of his mother. Hussein was stumbling towards Fatima's grave, collapsed on the grave and said, Amma, I'm leaving Medina now. I'm going towards Karbala now. A 57-year-old Hussein, so much love for his mother, that he would say, Amma, take me inside with you. I'm going, there is no Hassan, there is no Baba, you're not with me at all. But it's not possible that a son goes on such an important mission and the mother not be there with him. And he was reminded on Asr Ashur that his mother has been with him every step of the way. When everybody was gone, when he stood there tanha and alone, when our Mawla did his rukhsat from the khayma of the women, and he left the khayma, a voice comes from behind him, Mahalan, Mahalan, Yabna Zahra. Slow down, go slow, O the son of Zahra. Hussein turns around, in front of him is Zainab. And these two have a conversation. And after conversing, Zainab says, Bhaiya, I have an amanat for you from our mother. Meaning to say that Hussein, your mother never left you. The love that your mom has for you have never left this moment where you think you are tanha and nobody is there. Your mother is reminding you that I've been with you every step of the way. Bibi Zainab steps forward, unbuttons the button from the shirt of Hussein and kisses the chest of Abu Abdullah to remind Hussein that Amma mentioned that when my Hussein is Shaheed and Umar bin Saad announces that I need 10 volunteers to change the hooves of their horses and trample the body of my Hussein to the point where again in Nafas al-Mahmum, Shaykh Abbas Qummi says, when the 10th Mal'oon trampled the body of Hussein, he says, by Allah, I could hear the cracking of the ribs of Hussein. That chest that will be trampled by 10 different horses, kiss that chest for me, Zainab. Then she moves forward and kisses the neck of Imam Hussein. That neck that Bibi Zainab narrates on Asr Ashur, when the ground began to shake and the sky became black, and Bibi Zainab says, I ran and Shimr bin Zuljoshan ran. I ran to Tila Zainabiyya and Shimr ran to the chest of Hussein. Jalisu ala Sadr al-Hussein, 13 times a dull knife. That point on that neck, I want you to kiss Zainab. Don't think, Hussein, that your mother wasn't with you. Every step of the way she was with you. And finally, Bibi Zainab steps forward and kisses the forehead of Imam Hussein. When Imam Hussein was surrounded, when those who had arrows, they shot arrows. When those who had spears, they threw spears. When those who had weapons, they used their weapons. When those who had nothing, they picked up rocks and pebbles and threw it at my Mawla's face. That spot where the rocks would hit time and time again, Zainab kissed that forehead for me. Imam Hussein says to Zainab that if Amma had an amanat for me, then Baba had an amanat for you as well. Take Zainab inside the khayma, rolls her sleeves up, that area on the bazoo where the ropes will be tied. He says, Baba told me, when our Zainab enters the bazaar of Kufa, it will be such that she'll be tied as a prisoner with her bazoo. Remind her that your Mawla and your father and your Baba, who's Mushkil Kusha, will be with you every step of the way. When Imam Ali and the poison from the sword of Muljim had spread to the point where the Tabib came and he said, look Mawla, there's no time left now. The poison has spread so much, it's a mere matter of hours that you'll be in this world. If I were you, to start to give nasihat to your children. One by one, he gathers his kids, gives them nasihat one by one. And then there comes this conversation between who? Between Ali and Zainab. Fathers and daughters are a different connection altogether. Sat down Zainab and said, Zainab, after me this will happen to you. After me this will happen to you. After me that will happen to you. And every step of the way, I want you to be patient. I want you to be patient. I want you to be patient. Zainab is listening. Baba, I'll be patient. Baba, I'll be patient. Baba, I'll be patient. When he's all done, she has one question for Baba. Baba, I'll be patient. But Baba, if I call you for help during those problems, will you come and help me, Baba? Of course I will. For the Ummah and Mushkil Kusha, it wouldn't be for you. But where did Zainab ask Ali for help? That's the question. Where did the daughter ask Baba for help? Day of Ashura, honor Muhammad, give their life. They're brought back to the khayma. Everyone waits for Zainab's response. Zainab comes out of the khayma very slowly. On is on one side, Muhammad on the other. She kneels down in front of them, puts one hand on On's chest, one hand Muhammad's chest, kneels down to sajda, says, Ya Allah, accept this qaleel hadiyah on my behalf. Devastating, but doesn't ask Ali for help. Ali Akbar, Imam Hussein is calling the small kids of Bani Hashim, come and help me take my Ali Akbar back to the khayma. Zainab comes out, sees Ali Akbar, devastated, doesn't ask Ali for help. Asr Ashur, Tila Zainabiyah, when the crowd is removed from head to toe, upon Zakhmi, on the body of her brother Hussein, to the point where she looks at Hussein and says, Anta akhi, this is my brother Hussein. When that Nok and Nizah had the head of Hussein, then she realized, yes, this headless body is that of my brother Hussein. Devastating, never asked Ali for help. The entire journey from Karbala to Kufa, Kufa to Sham, as difficult as it was, never asked Ali for help. Some riwayat tell us that her mother came, her grandfather came. They came, but she never asked them for help. There came a moment where the courtyard of Yazid is in front of her. 7 doors to the courtyard of Yazid. One door opens, she goes through. The second door opens, she goes through. The 6th door opens, she goes through. When the 7th door opens to the courtyard of Yazid, there in front of her are 700 men lined up in chairs, waiting for this tamasha. The daughter of Zainab stops at the door of Yazid and says, if anyone has any himmat, they will force me to enter this darbar. I'm not entering this courtyard. Imam Sajjad says, Fatimiya, a little bit more patience. I'm with you. Let's enter the darbar. I'm not moving from where I am. The voice from the Nok and Neza says, Zainab, Hussein's with you. Enter the door, the courtyard. That's when Zainab says, Bhaiya, you're asking me. You're telling me I'll enter the courtyard. Just answer me one question. Which way is it to Najaf? Baba, your Zainab is asking you. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. ماتم حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
हसनैन के सर पर से उठा साया इमाद ऐ वाए मुसीबत ऐ वाए मुसीबत हसनैन के सर पर से उठा साया इमाद